You are not failing because you are not trying hard enough. You are failing because trying too hard is the very thing pushing what you want further away. You set 3 alarms and still feel exhausted before your feet hit the floor. You write the goal down for the 4th time this year and feel that same hollow flicker of doubt underneath the hope. You scroll past someone else's success and smile outwardly, but something small and tight moves through your chest. You work late again, achieve the thing, and sit in the quiet afterward wondering why it still does not feel like enough. You fall asleep with your phone in your hand, mind still racing, body still braced for a fight that never quite ends. 2,000 years ago, a man sat in the middle of a crumbling empire surrounded by war, betrayal, plague, and the constant threat of collapse. And instead of gripping harder or strategizing obsessively, he sat down in stillness and wrote words in a private journal that he never intended anyone else to read. Those words changed everything. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. He did not conquer life by gripping it harder. He mastered it by learning to let go in a very specific and disciplined way. And today, you are going to learn the 10 Stoic pillars he and his peers lived by. The exact framework that turns relaxation into a force of attraction. Stay with me because the 10th one is the one most people never hear, and it is the one that changes the entire game. The first pillar is detached desire. Most people treat their goals the way a drowning person treats a life preserver. They grip with both hands, white-knuckled, terrified to loosen their hold even slightly. The goal becomes a need, and the moment something becomes a need, the anxiety of possibly not having it begins to leak into everything you do. It shows up in the edge in your voice during interviews. It shows up in the way you check your phone 100 times, waiting for a response. It radiates outward in ways you cannot see, but other people feel immediately. That energy, desperate, contracted, and tight, is the exact energy that repels the very outcomes you are reaching for. The Stoic alternative is not to stop wanting. It is to want clearly and completely while holding the outcome loosely. Epictetus put it plainly: make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. You bring your full effort. You release your attachment to the specific result. Think of a kite. Pull the string too hard and it nosedives straight into the ground. Release the string entirely and it falls. The precise tension that keeps it flying, taut but not strangling, is exactly what detached desire feels like in practice. It is care without desperation. Effort without clinging. Today, write down one thing you want deeply. Then, write one honest sentence about why you would genuinely be okay if it took twice as long as you planned. Read it aloud. Sit with it until some part of you actually settles. Feel what shifts in your body, in your chest, in your shoulders, when you actually mean those words rather than just thinking them. The second pillar is present moment magnetism. Most people try to build their future from inside their anxiety about it. They sit with a goal in mind, but their attention is already living 3 months ahead, rehearsing failures, stress testing worst-case scenarios, burning through their creative fuel in a future that does not yet exist and may never exist in the form they are imagining. Here is the cost. Nothing is ever built in the future. Nothing is ever repaired in the past. Every single thing that has ever been created in human history was created in a present moment by someone who was actually there for it. Marcus Aurelius wrote 3 words that still stop emperors and executives cold today: confine yourself to the present. Not as a spiritual platitude, but as a performance instruction. The Stoic alternative is to treat the present moment not as a waiting room for your real life to begin, but as the only workshop where real things get built. Think of a magnifying glass held over paper on a sunny day. Scatter the sunlight and you get warmth. Focus it through one precise point, and it burns through solid material in seconds. Your attention works exactly the same way. Scattered across yesterday and tomorrow, it barely heats anything. Focused on right now, it becomes genuinely powerful. Today, choose one task and give it 20 minutes of complete, undivided attention. No second screen, no phone face up, just you and the work, fully present. Notice what becomes possible in that space. The third pillar is accepted resistance. Most people treat every obstacle as evidence that something has gone wrong. The delay feels like a signal to stop. The rejection feels like confirmation that they chose the wrong path. The plan that collapses feels like proof they are not capable enough. So they stop, they pivot, they redesign from scratch, and they end up in a permanent loop of beginnings that never become anything solid because they exit every time the real work actually starts. The emotional cost of this pattern is not just wasted time, it is the slow erosion of trust in yourself, because you have learned to associate difficulty with failure, and that association becomes a self-fulfilling one. The Stoic alternative is the principle Marcus Aurelius returned to again and again. The obstacle is the way. Resistance is not a stop sign. It is the mechanism of your formation. Think of the oyster. It does not produce a pearl when conditions are smooth and comfortable. The pearl only forms because something rough and foreign entered the shell, and the oyster built something extraordinary around the very irritation that could have destroyed it. You are built the same way. Every rejection, every delay, every plan that fell apart at the worst possible moment is the irritant around which something in you is crystallizing right now. Today, name one obstacle that has been frustrating you most. Then write one sentence about what strength, skill, or character it might be building inside you that no smooth road ever could. The fourth pillar is your inner authority. Most people have quietly and entirely handed the keys to their emotional kingdom, to everything outside themselves. Their mood is a direct reflection of their bank balance. Their confidence is borrowed from other people's approval and must be returned when the approval stops. Their sense of self-worth rises and falls with each new result, each new performance, each new verdict delivered by people whose own inner lives are equally borrowed and unsteady. The cost of this arrangement is that you are never actually in charge of how you feel. You are a passenger, constantly reacting, always dependent, perpetually at the mercy of circumstances you did not choose and cannot fully control. The Stoics were precise about this. They drew a hard line between what is yours and what is not. What is yours? Your thoughts, your values, is your chosen effort, your response to whatever happens. What is not yours? Other people's opinions, timing, the economy, outcomes. Stop letting what is not yours decide what is happening inside you. Think of a lighthouse. The storm does not ask the lighthouse for permission to rage. The sea does not negotiate with the structure. But the lighthouse does not argue with the storm or collapse under the pressure of the waves either. It holds its light, fixed and absolutely constant, because its function is not to control the weather. Its function is to be unmovable within it. You are the lighthouse. Today, before you check a single notification or message or update, spend 2 minutes deciding who you are genuinely choosing to be today. Claim your keys before the world gets the chance to take them. The fifth pillar is strategic, non-action. Most people have been trained to equate motion with progress and stillness with failure. Every empty calendar slot feels like a missed opportunity. Every hour of rest carries a whisper of guilt, so they fill everything. Every minute is scheduled, every gap is plugged, every slow moment is eliminated in favor of more output, more tasks, more visible signs of effort. The cost is a kind of frantic, exhausted busyness that feels like swimming, but is actually treading water in place. Real movement requires real clarity, and real clarity requires genuine space that most people never give themselves permission to protect. When everything is urgent, nothing is important. When every hour is full, there is no room for the kind of thinking that actually changes direction. The Stoic alternative is not laziness. It is the disciplined distinction between aligned action and busy work. Aligned action moves you forward. Busy work creates the feeling of motion without the reality of it. Think of a farmer. He does not dig up his seeds every morning to check whether they are growing. He plants with care and clear intention, he waters with patient consistency, and then he trusts the intelligence of darkness and time to do what only darkness and time can do. Some things genuinely cannot be rushed. Some ideas, some relationships, some breakthroughs need to germinate completely in the unseen before they surface. Your job is to plant well, water faithfully, and then resist the urge to excavate what you have not yet given time to grow. Today, look at your to-do list. Cross off 3 items that are motion dressed up as progress. Then protect 1 uninterrupted hour for the one thing that genuinely matters most this week. The 6th pillar is gratitude as a creative force. Most people treat gratitude as a soft habit for optimistic people, something pleasant to journal about when life is already going well, something that sounds meaningful but does not change anything real. So they practice it casually or skip it entirely, especially when things are hard, which is precisely when it would make the most difference. The Stoics understood something about gratitude that most people still miss entirely. It is not a sentiment. It is a physiological state change. When you are living in scarcity mode, perpetually focused on what is missing, what has not arrived, what everyone else seems to have that you still do not, your nervous system is running in survival mode. In that state, your creative capacity contracts. Problem-solving narrows. You cannot think expansively or act boldly when every cell in your body is scanning for threat. Think of a clenched fist held tight. Nothing can enter a hand that is already completely closed. Gratitude is the practice of opening your hand, not by pretending the hard things are not hard, not by forcing a smile over real pain, but by deliberately redirecting your full attention to what is already working, what is already present, what you would genuinely and specifically miss if it disappeared tomorrow. From that open state, you begin to see options that existed all along, but were invisible while your attention was locked on the absence. Today, before you sleep, name 3 specific things already in your life that would leave a real gap if they were gone tomorrow. Name them precisely. Feel them fully. That is the practice. The 7th pillar is emotional sovereignty. Most people believe their emotions are automatic events, things that simply happen to them in response to outside triggers without any gap between the cause and the effect. Someone says something cutting and the anger arrives instantly, full and overwhelming. A plan collapses and the spiral begins before they have even finished processing what happened. They experience themselves as passengers carried wherever the feeling decides to go, and they call this being human. The Stoics called it being unconscious. Here is the discovery that changes everything. Between the triggering event and your actual response to it, there is always a gap. It might be smaller than a second, but it is always there. And everything depends on what you do inside that gap. The Stoic alternative is not to suppress or eliminate emotion. It is to expand the gap until it is large enough to choose your response, rather than simply discharge your reaction. Think of a pause button on a remote control. The show is still running, the situation has not changed. But in that pause, you get to decide, does this moment get my anxiety, my rage, my collapse, or does it get my clarity, my steadiness, my chosen response? That pause is available in every single difficult moment of your life. Today, identify one trigger that reliably pulls a reaction from you, one specific person or situation that reliably bypasses your choice. Practice naming it out loud before you respond next time. Just name it. That naming is the gap opening up. The 8th pillar is the philosophy of enough. Most people have made their sense of completeness entirely dependent on an outcome that keeps moving. They tell themselves they will finally feel settled when they earn that specific number, reach that specific milestone, receive that specific recognition. And when they arrive, the relief lasts approximately 3 days before the dissatisfaction quietly relocates itself to the next horizon. This is not ambition. This is the treadmill the Stoics called the greatest poverty a person can experience, because no amount of external achievement can reach the internal ache it was sent to fill. The Stoic alternative is not settling. It is not the death of your ambition or the quiet surrender of your standards to mediocrity. That is a misreading of the philosophy that costs people enormously. The Stoics were ambitious, disciplined, and deeply productive people. It is the surgical separation of your sense of inner wholeness from every external result. Think of a glass of water. If you drink from a place of genuine thirst, you gulp anxiously, always afraid there will not be enough, never quite tasting what you are swallowing. If you drink from a place of genuine ease, you sip slowly, actually experiencing the water, not depending on it to rescue you from a scarcity that lives in your mind rather than in the glass. The person who creates from fullness builds something entirely different from the person who creates from lack. The energy is different. The decisions are different. The results are different. Today, say this aloud. I am already enough, and I am still growing. Notice which part of you believes that immediately and which part resists it. The resistance is not a problem. It is the exact thing worth examining. The ninth pillar is authentic expression. Most people are quietly performing a version of themselves that was built for approval rather than truth. They soften their real opinions in meetings. They pretend enthusiasm they do not feel. They agree with things that do not actually align with them, shrinking into shapes designed to fit other people's comfort zones rather than their own genuine nature. And then they wonder why the opportunities that find them feel slightly wrong, slightly misaligned, slightly like wearing someone else's clothes. The Stoics called this the mask. And the mask has a very specific cost beyond the dishonesty of it. The right opportunities, the relationships, and the work and the doors that were made precisely for who you actually are calibrated to the real you, not the performance. When you are broadcasting a different frequency, they cannot locate you no matter how close they are. Think of a radio signal trying to find a specific station. If the station is broadcasting on one frequency and the receiver is tuned to a different one, the signal is lost even if both are powerful and both are real. Authentic expression is the act of tuning to your actual frequency, fully and without apology, so that what belongs to you can actually reach you. Today, say one true thing you have been softening in a conversation, in a message, in a decision you have been deferring. One true thing completely said. The 10th pillar is divine timing, and this is the pillar where everything either finally integrates or quietly breaks down. Here is the hard truth most people never hear. You can practice all 9 of the pillars above with genuine commitment. You can release attachment and live in the present. You can accept resistance and govern your inner world. You can act with real alignment. Practice gratitude daily. Master your emotional responses. Embrace enough and show up completely as yourself. And still, the result will not always arrive on the schedule you drew up for it. And that gap between your timeline and the actual timeline is where most people, without realizing it, abandon every principle they have built and go back to gripping, forcing, and demanding. The cost of this is immense. Because forcing is not neutral, it often pushes away the very thing that was genuinely on its way. The Stoic alternative is surrender without passivity. It is continuing to do your part with full commitment while releasing the need to control the exact moment of delivery. Think of a seed in winter ground. From above the surface, it appears that nothing whatsoever is happening. From beneath the surface, everything is happening. The root system is extending and deepening. The cellular structure is forming. All the underground preparation that makes the eventual surface breakthrough possible is occurring completely out of sight. Your surrender is not giving up. It is trusting the underground work that no one else can see yet, including you. Today, write down one thing you have been trying to force onto a specific timeline. Then, write these words beneath it. I have done my honest part. I trust the process. Read those words slowly. Sit with them until even a small part of you believes them. Then mean them 1% more than you did yesterday. That one honest percent is more than enough to begin. So now let us bring everything together, because this is where the real shift happens, not in the ideas, but in what you decide to do with them the moment this video ends. You came here carrying something. Maybe it was that hollow, foggy feeling of doing everything right and still feeling like something essential is missing. Maybe it was the tired weight of wanting more while simultaneously feeling guilty for wanting it at all. Maybe it was just a quiet voice underneath all the noise that kept saying, there has to be another way. There is, and you have just been given it. But here is what the Stoics understood that most modern conversations about success completely miss. Manifestation is not about getting things. It is about becoming the kind of person who is genuinely ready to hold them. Because if you received everything you wanted right now, before doing any of this inner work, you would not be equipped to keep it. The wealth would not transform you. The relationship would not complete you. The success would not satisfy you. Because the gap was never between you and the goal. The gap was between who you currently are and who you need to become in order to truly receive what is coming. The work of this video, all 10 pillars of it, is the most direct path toward closing that gap, one honest and deliberate day at a time. The Stoics called it the harmony of three. When your mind is clear and not scattered across a dozen imagined futures, when your body is rested and not running purely on urgency and caffeine, and when your heart is genuinely open and grateful rather than clenched around what is still missing, something begins to shift in your daily life that is difficult to explain and impossible to ignore. The resistance dissolves. Doors begin to open without you forcing them. Conversations align in ways that feel too precise to be coincidental. The opportunities that were always present but invisible to you become suddenly and completely visible. The life you were chasing starts meeting you halfway, because you finally stopped running away from yourself long enough for it to catch up. That is not a metaphor. That is a description of exactly what happens in the life of every person who has committed to this kind of deep, sustained inner alignment. The outside world responds to your inside world with more precision than most people ever discover. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is the slow, daily, genuinely unsexy practice of becoming someone whose inner world is honest and stable enough to match the outer life they are calling forward. Clear the bubble of stress from your mind and your body, not by solving everything at once, but by releasing the tension one small, deliberate, and honest choice at a time. One honest breath, one moment of real presence, one step taken toward who you are still becoming. The Stoics did not chase greatness. They cultivated the character, the discipline, and the quiet, inner steadiness of greatness until that was simply who they were. And everything truly great followed them naturally, the way a shadow follows the light, because they had become people capable of carrying it without losing themselves inside it. That is the only model worth following, not chasing anything outside yourself, becoming everything within yourself. So here is your one action right now, not tomorrow, not when life calms down enough to feel convenient. Right now. In the comments below this video, type these words: I relax, I trust, and I receive. That is your anchor. That is your declaration to your own future self that you are choosing the Stoic way, not the frantic way, not the desperate way, but the grounded, aligned, and genuinely powerful way of moving through your one life. Type it and mean it. Say it quietly to yourself before your fingers even move. Because the fact that you are still here, all the way to this moment in this video, means some real part of you already. Means it far more than you currently know. Honor that part. It has been waiting a long time for you to listen. You are not here by accident. Something in you recognized what was being said here before you even finished hearing it. That recognition is not small or accidental. That is the real you, the one underneath the performance and the pressure and the endless planning, finally speaking up clearly enough to be heard. That version has always known the direction. It has always recognized the truth when it hears it. It has always felt the pull towards something more aligned, more honest, and more genuinely yours. It was simply waiting for you to slow down long enough and quiet enough to actually listen to what it has been saying all along. You do not need to be fearless to begin. You do not need to be healed or completely ready or entirely free of your doubts and your hesitations before you take the very next step. You simply need to take one honest step toward the version of you that already knows how to relax, already knows how to trust, and already knows with complete and quiet certainty that everything you are genuinely reaching for is already, in this exact present moment, reaching right back toward you. That step does not need to be large. It needs to be real, relax, trust, receive. Those are not just 3 words. They are a completely different way of moving through your one life, one breath, one moment, one honest choice at a time. The Stoics showed us how. Now it is your turn. Go live it.